last project we have before we get started on the house is getting organized and storage. So I think we'll start with creating some shelving underneath these stairs. So to start this, we're going to do the same dados that we always do for these shelves into these 2x4s. Is the first set of shelves built in underneath the stairs. Got our work gloves on the top, sharp chainsaw chains just to the left of that. Then down below a spot for the chainsaw, the leaf blower, and then down underneath that, the chop saw. So the last couple of days, we cut up some lumber out of the smaller stuff and made these shelves. I first made a set of shelves like this in our first house in Maryland. I went and got some lumber from the Amish that was rough cut dimensional like this. And I think I got the plans out of a magazine. This is back in like the early 90s. And what I like about these is they are super strong, and they're also probably just about as cheap as you can get. The only thing it's made of is lumber and screws. And by the time you get, you can get the rails that have the slots in them for adjustable shelves, or you can get brackets. And by the time you get these, if you're going to do any amount of shelves that's considerable, you're going to be into it for a pretty fair price. So what this is, you can see we've got these pieces, and with these dado cuts, this allows these to be adjustable. All I have is a screw in the back of this holding this cleat right here, and then these boards are on it. So all I've got to do is come in and take this screw out, move the cleat up to here or wherever you want your shelves to be. So it's pretty handy in that way. Here you can notice I didn't put any here because obviously we put this piece in here. I'll probably get some hooks for a coat hook rather than these screws, but we just used this rough cut piece, tied it into it so that now we've got a place for a coat hook and also the shoe rack. The other thing that I did, let's move this over to here and see if I can get this, is you may notice up on the top, which I'll show better as we build the next one. The cleats on the left side, you'll notice that the dados are an inch up from the cleats or dados on the right side. And the reason for that is that way is just tie this screw in from the back. When you get up to the top ones up there, you'll be able to undo either side without having to tear the whole thing apart and move the shelves as you want to. On this next set, so this beam or post right here, this 2x4, is actually now the vertical bracket for the other set of shelves going this direction. So as you get going now, you only have to build one of these and then all of your shelves for each successive set. So I'll show now how I make those. Spent yesterday on the sawmill so that I could spend today cutting up wood for the shelves. I think, given the amount of precipitation that we have, that I need a place that's covered. So because of the snow, we took this area and cleaned it out and got it so that I can at least cut wood in here for the shelves. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut 2 of these to length, that length being 10 foot 4 inches, so that it's a little bit higher than 10 feet. It might end up being a little bit bright because I've got this light just so I can see my line. Not ideal, but it's out of the snow. Next, I'm going to lay out the dado joints. They are every 6 inches, and if you recall, on one, the dado is one side of 6 inches and the other is the other side. This is on the short side, so it's every 6 inches and then minus 1 inch up to 5 feet. Then we skip for the window. Next, I'll use my square to draw these lines and also transpose them onto the other piece. Not really necessary because I'm going to connect these two together, as you'll see, but it just keeps you from making mistakes. When you look down and see that you're not on the line, you know something's wrong. Next, I'm going to take this piece of scrap and just attach it. The point of that is to keep these boards from being able to move relative to each other. And here, because I have this window space where there aren't any dados, I just attach it there. Now as I cut these, this board can move as one unit. And now comes the tedious part. And as you recall, I'm putting this piece back here because of the radius of the saw blade. I've got my depth set. I'm going to have to twist this board a little bit because it's a little bit tweaked. Set those up. The other thing I should note, I don't know if you can see it, I've got these 2 blocks down here, and this, I'm using it as a roller. It makes it much easier to move this back and forth. I do the 2 outside lines first. And then I'll come with my chisel and do a little bit of cleanup. And there is that one done. So now only about 20 more. One side done. Now we flip it over, do the other side. Now that we got these grooves cut in, I have to put the grooves on the back side. But in order to hold them together, now because we have these grooves, I'll use this piece of wood here, and that piece of wood, we'll screw them in from the back, because that's where the shelves are going to screw anyway. Now I'll lay out this side the same way I did the other one. The only difference is I'm going to make this one, this groove, over from this one by 1 inch. That way when you're screwing this shelf in, you can still get to the screw, and same thing from the other one. I've already laid one out, so I'll do that off camera. There is the other side done. All told, that probably took about an hour, and ideally this could be done, I don't know if you can put a dado head in a radial arm saw, but that would be awesome because you could dial in the width of them and then it would just be one single cut and the width would be exact for everyone. You'll notice as I do this that more than likely we're going to have somewhere the gap is a little bit wider than the board that goes into it, but better too wide than too narrow. But with a stacked dado head on a radial arm saw, you could get pretty exact with this and it would be very fast. All right, now that we've got these pieces cut, I'll go ahead and put these in and attach them. And there you can see what I was talking about with the cleats being screwed in from the back. And then by offsetting them or staggering these, I'm able to screw into that one. And then if I had a shelf here, I'd be able to screw in that way. Yesterday when we were cutting these, we were able to cut some 4-inch wide ones, 6-inch and 8-inch. So I'm going to use these two 8 inches just to tie this first one in. So I mentioned that we cut 4 6s and 8s, and the reason, I'm not sure if you noticed, but this one is only 12 inches deep. This is 16 inches deep. It's another thing I like about this is you can adjust the distance just by changing the cleat length on this one, and then this board you just put out 16 from here to here instead of 12 like this other side is, and you've got a 16-inch shelf. We could go 24 inches. And obviously you can take these cleats and you can just screw them onto this piece of wood. The other reason I prefer this is it creates a shear point where it has to shear this entire piece right here in order to rip that off, making it quite a bit stronger than just a screw that could be pulled out of the wood or through bolted or whatever. I mean, if you through bolted and put washers on it, it'd be pretty strong, but that'd be kind of a pain. This is very modular, so that when you're done, I'm going to use these probably in the shop. I can take these down. They're completely reconfigurable quite easily and be readjusted for whatever height for the stuff that I have. So it takes a little bit more time, but I put these, like I said, in a house we previously owned, and I really liked them, and they're cheap. I don't know if you're going to get this, but wow. So we got most of the shelves done. As we come down through here, I got one more set to put in, and we got most of the stuff on it. I actually have all the shelves I think that we need for what we have, but I have one more that I'm going to put in. Probably put a shelf on the other side, or at least a place to hang extension cords, things like that. But it's time to figure out what to do with this back corner. There's going to be a shelf right here underneath the window. That's that last piece right there. I'll go ahead and put it in, and probably just put in 2 shelves just to hold it. And then as we decide what we want to put on it, I'll add additional shelves. But if you recall, we put the water tank right there because originally I had thought maybe I would end up skirting the trailer, and that way the water tank would be inside. I didn't cover that in great detail because at the time we were working on the water rights, and so I had put that in knowing we were going to get water rights, but before we had the water rights, we have a few months ago, we got the water rights, so this is all good to go. So I'll kind of go over it, I guess, in a little bit more detail. But what that is a poly tank that we have about 300 feet of line that comes down from the creek, goes into there, and if you recall, we have a submersible well pump that makes it basically so that the RV is just like it's on city water. I can't and don't want to cover that tank right there with a bunch of dirt because it's just a poly tank and it could collapse it. But I would like to have this area utilized because it comes around here, and perhaps have a bench back here. So I think I'm going to have to put in some sort of flooring that covers that so it's still accessible, and then tie the bench in. And I'm going to have to tie it in some way that ties in with this last shelf, or at least goes around it. So I'll probably put the shelf in first and then go from there. It's probably going to be a little bit hard to see, but we came in and framed what'll be the floor of this in, and then this will be just a bench area. Down here, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but I made it so that it covers obviously the water thing, the water tank, and then goes around so that all of this recessed area will have flooring over it. And then I'll still be able to get to that water if I need to. Started putting the boards down on the floor. Nothing terribly exciting there. Over here, I'm going to put these blocks underneath here to hold this piece right here, and I pre-drilled them so they won't split. also pre-drilled these. To the hardware store today to get coat hooks, and they were $4.50 a piece. So rather than spending 30 bucks, I just got a dowel. Now I just wait for that to dry, and not that 30 bucks is a ton of money, but as I keep saying, this is all temporary, and I'd rather spend 30 bucks on a nice tool than fancy hooks to go on very rustic looking coat hanger. So we've got this area done, so I'll kind of do a walkthrough. Obviously the shelves, and then coming into here where it started to slope off to the right, we've got flooring. And then coming back here, you're not going to be able to see it very well, but a workbench. Very rustic, but I actually learned a while ago I'd rather have a workbench that is rustic and not anything nice, because as soon as you leak oil onto it or you drop something on it and it dents it, then it's not nice, and I'd rather have my workbench be functional. So even when I build a shop and we get into the house, I'll probably make my workbench out of stuff like this, just so that you know, you don't, it's not about the look, it's about functionality. And with that, I believe all of the projects are done. So now we'll start working on the house. I already got with the county, talk about the septic permit, and hopefully next we'll be doing some excavation and getting ready to build the house. There'll still be some minor stuff in here that we want to do, but this was the last of the big projects. In the last segment, I'm pretty sure I said that we were done with the projects in here, and that next we're moving on to building or starting the house. And I lied. Well, I didn't lie. We changed our mind. We have one more thing that we're going to do. My wife does gardening, canning, and is going to start doing freeze drying and dehydrating. And we wanted to put a couple of benches in this area. We're going to use these tables. Couldn't really find a table for that corner. It doesn't really fit well. So we're going to go ahead and build a bench area here that also has a little bit of storage. So we'll knock that out pretty quick. Probably take just a day to get that done. And then she's probably going to do some indoor gardening. We've got some grow lights. I think we're going to put underneath there just for some small scale indoor gardening. Once we get the house and the shop done, we're going to up the scale of that food preparation just as a hobby and something to do. But we're going to start off small here, and this will be her work area. So I screwed that side in, leveled it. Now we're going to do this side and just tack it in here. That way, then I'll probably come back and lag bolt these with a single lag bolt. There. So it's just attached and floating at this point. Then we'll come in and put legs in. So we're just finished. The lights are probably temporary, but they're not as bright as those other lights. That other light was. And we've got a shelf up here for whatever. We'll probably put a shelf down below too. Put the workbench up pretty high so that it's comfortable working. And now she's putting on her, that's a freeze dryer. Then there'll be a dehydrator, probably some canning stuff here. And then probably over here, we're going to hang some grow lights and do some very small scale indoor winter gardening. We'll see. This video is going to be a little bit out of sequence, which doesn't really matter, but I do like to try to keep them in sequence. But I'm going to put this at the end. This morning I'm sitting in the RV getting ready to start our day, and I notice something go by that back window. There's a window in the back of the RV and we can see out that window. I'm not sure what it is. So I come trucking out here and head up this direction, and you'll see in the footage is about to show, a couple of bull elk came trucking through here. They walked right through past all of our stuff and up the driveway. That's one of the reasons you'll see that I always have a firearm on me. Not that elk are much of a threat. Typically they're more afraid of you than you are them. But you get one look at the size of one of those things and the antlers they have, and you start to wonder how things would go down if they decided they weren't going to run from you, because they are very intimidating looking. Don't know if you saw that, but that was 2 huge bull elk. A lot of the snow is melting out of the trees. Last couple of days, I think it got down to 11. Now it's warming up, so it's not nearly as cold, and it's starting to melt and fall out of the trees.